Alright, hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Zachary Dickinson here. Hope you all are having a wonderful week. It is Tuesday, and so here is the MCU Phase 4 combined video, combining the two videos of both films and shows. The only difference that this will be than other combined videos is I'm going to make it as close to in timeline order as possible, so it won't really be exactly one-to-one combining together. But anyways, hope you like this video. Subscribe, hit that notification bell to get notified about future updates, future videos, and updates on them. Mondays, Marvel DC. Wednesday, TV shows in the broad term. Fridays, TV breakdowns. A lot of anime right now. Saturdays, book content coming back this Saturday with more book content, going over a series I very much love and cannot wait for the conclusion of it later, hopefully this year. I don't really know though. But sit back, relax, enjoy this Marvel Cinematic Universe Multiverse Saga Phase 4 combined video. Alright, so now our first film of Phase 4 was coming out in July 9th to be specific, 2021, Black Widow, where it had a both movie theater and at home Disney Plus release. You did have to pay extra money for it, but that's kind of how it went for a few of these movies. It definitely pretty much underperformed in the box office. Also, it was the first film of the Multiverse Saga, not named the Multiverse Saga, but it has now been since named the Multiverse Saga. And we start off with a character who died in Avengers Endgame just a few films ago, but well over 2 years ago. And we're getting basically her backstory. And many fans do agree that we probably should have gotten this at some point before Endgame, because most of the movie, except for the post-credit scene, takes place before it Endgame. And timeline sense doesn't really make all that much sense. As why would you have a film coming out after your biggest film of all time that takes place before your biggest film of all time to wrap up and establish newer stories? It doesn't make all that much sense. Now, the movie as a whole, is Black Widow good? Not really. Straight up, not really. The way that they did this movie, both written and acting and CGI, just didn't mesh well. CGI was definitely a down point in comparison to the Phase 3 MCU and even Phase 2 or even Phase 1. From how it improved from Phase 1 into Phase 3, but it kind of went very steep of a downturn for this movie. Now, CGI wasn't that great. The characters were okay. We had Natasha and Yelena Belova. Those were pretty much the best characters. Female Taskmaster, but 10 times worse, was not a good choice. I don't like gender swapping, race swapping, or any kind of swapping of characters unless it makes very much logical sense. Unless they wanted this movie to be 99% female, that would be the only way to make it make sense. But also, they did it in a way to where this character is somewhat involved in like more so of the past than this movie already is in the past. And so it kind of made sense, but Taskmaster is more of a man and very much more powerful than the movie of this adaptation was. And I would say that it was Taskmaster was basically the proxy main villain, like the one that fights, because the man that's the head of the Red Room and all of that was like the main villain, but he doesn't really like fight at all. But we did get a good, solid backstory on Black Widow, her family, and everything in between. Her entire family is from the Red Room. We have Red Guardian. We have Yelena Belova basically becoming the new Black Widow in our known ways, whereas the Red Room is basically just an entire onslaught of Black Widows. And then we also have her proxy mother and all that. Red Guardian is just a laughable and very much just a comedic relief character that's not really good in combat, really. It's just okay. And so Black Widow herself, this was a half decent story, but not a story that you start your brand new saga off with, at least film wise. I know that WandaVision and Falcon Winter Soldier kind of set the tone with the shows since they came out before this, but your first major movie release should not have been Black Widow. It should have been one of the other movies from Phase 4, and then it would have set the proper tone. This didn't really set the proper tone. And so some fans were a bit deterred and didn't really come back for the next two movies, which were lesser, which was Shang-Chi and Eternals, lesser characters and non-established characters. Because we weren't given faith and something to come back to, as this wasn't a good or great film. It was just okay at best. Also, the main character is dead. Just dead. The main character won't be coming back at all. So this is just a backstory to lead into Endgame 2 years after Endgame. So no, this movie isn't that good. It is okay at best. I wouldn't say bad because it's not the worst, but it is probably near the bottom of the MCU movies in history. All right, and so we have WandaVision, we had the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and now we have Loki, which is, in my opinion, take it with a grain of salt. You can argue with the wall. We can start a conversation about it in the comments. But in my opinion, the third show, which these began in early 2021, and this is the third show. This one came out in the summer. This is Loki season 1, and it is the best show that Marvel has released on Disney Plus yet. Up to this point, it is the best. But we're only talking about half the show. So, season 2 and both seasons combined make it the best show. But season 1 is still one of the best seasons in all of Marvel with Disney Plus shows. Period. It's just 2 seasons of 6 episodes each with phenomenal build-up and phenomenal storytelling of building up Loki and showing us what the multiverse is like. And this was before they even introduced the fact that it was the Multiverse Saga. But we kind of knew, but they didn't label it. And so we got 6 episodes of Loki, basically 6 hours of Loki having his second part of a redemption arc. And it was just great. It was just great. And you had a king basically in it, but kind of not. It's a whole thing. But I would say, just looking at the Phase 4 shows, this is definitively the best. Especially because it got a season 2 and because it finished. That'll be a problem that comes up later. And so now we have at the halfway point of the shows, and not the whole halfway point since we have 2 TV specials later on, but at about the halfway point, we have another certifiably good to great show. If you're one thing you're going to notice about these Phase 4 shows, very few of them suck. Most of them are at least good. And then we have 3 to 5 or so that are just great and top tier. And so we have What If Season 1. A lot of what happened in the Infinity Saga, but we're in the multiverse now, so we can go, what if Peggy became Captain America? What if, I don't know, what if Thanos didn't actually rule and was just happy-go-lucky? What if we have a laughing Thor? What if Tony Stark went to Sakaar and all that? We have many different things to go over. What if Ultron won? I will personally say I am definitely in the minority here in saying I didn't like most of What If Season 1. I find Season 2 to be the best season. That is a talking point for in a few weeks when we do the Phase 5 video. Overall, I will acknowledge this is a good show. I just don't really like it. That's about it. Most of it doesn't really interconnect all that much, and that's not why I don't like it. I just didn't really like Season 1. I love Season 2. I just didn't really like Season 1. That's pretty much just about it. What if? Fill in the blank. And there were some good and some bad, some okay, and that was just it. So, What If Season 1? Alright, so to begin this off, we have, in exact release order, the first ever Marvel Cinematic Universe Disney Plus show. Yes, all these shows are on Disney Plus and were streamed and premiered through exclusively Disney Plus. The first ever one was WandaVision, and people from most of my friends and the general consensus, this is among their favorites and what everyone considers to be the top tier best. Why is that? WandaVision took a shot and was different from among the rest and paid itself off. It made the whole reality warping of the Scarlet Witch more real, and to see how really reality warping her powers are, by just about every episode we go through a different decade in the 1900s, all the way to the modern era, where the reality warps and gets broken, and we finally see the culmination of all that's been building all throughout. It's a little bit slower of a show, yes, but the payoff is there. Unlike some other shows that we'll get to later, the payoff is there. All the payoff and everything in between is pretty much there. It's the only bad part about WandaVision is the fact that after the show, it took nearly 4 years for more about it to come up. Because yes, you had her in Multiverse of Madness. So if you want to be you had this, then Multiverse of Madness, then Agatha. That's still north of a 3-year wait. And we still haven't seen Vision since WandaVision. And this came out over 5 years ago. Around this time in 2021 was around the end, or it's been ended, of WandaVision. And so that's the only bad part. Overall, as a show, it's top tier. It's among the best. You can't really argue with it. It is a great and phenomenal start to the Marvel Cinematic Universe of Disney Plus shows. So now we have one of the more underrated films of we have one of more underrated films of Phase 4. And why do I say underrated? Because a lot of fans actually do love this. It's very much much more down or scaled, much more scaled back, and not as broad as some of the other big movies of the MCU have been. And it was much more grounded and just really takes place over like 2 or 3 locations, and really just like a coming of age kind of story, and someone accepting responsibility and becoming what he is supposed to be, and that is Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. It has been 5 years. It has been nearly 5 years since this film has come out. We have no update on it. 2. We have no update on anything regarding it. However, the director is now well acclaimed and well loved in Marvel and is being trusted with many different projects. So there's a plus and a minus. Why am I saying all this about a potential sequel to not one of the big films? Because everyone loves the film. Everyone loves this film. It came out about 2 months after Black Widow. It didn't really hit the box office that it should have, but also this new era of movies and theaters aren't really going to hit, because it's like after about 90 days, we have so much access to all these films on Disney Plus, on Netflix, getting a DVD, or really anything. So it's very hard to just advertise this as being a big box office film. This wasn't a big box office film. However, great movie, great fight against Father, great mythology around it, great history behind it. Not great explanation why you didn't interfere when your whole world was at stake. But, I mean, he is basically a criminal warlord and stuff like that. And really the hand-to-hand combat and the hand-to-hand combat, the use of weapons is really pretty much top tier. One of the best fights choreographies of the Multiverse saga as a whole. Now, so was this good? It was great. It's one of my favorite films of the Multiverse saga. Not the favorite. That one actually is almost up. But the movie that came right after and before this movie's here, Black Widow's here, And then Eternals came out after that, and that was at best on par with Black Widow, but probably not on par with Black Widow. So, this was a great film, a very underrated multiverse saga film, a very underrated MCU film as a whole. But we're now at a point where the next Shang-Chi movie will not come out until after Secret Wars because they have no plans to actually give us a sequel. A lot of the movies or shows that came out in Phase 4 aren't getting sequels for no reason. Many of them are bangers, many of them are great or even good. A season 2 of some of these would be lit and would establish them as bigger and better shows, but we're not going to get them. But yeah, Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings is an underrated and great film, and you should watch it. Alright, so now we have the second Marvel Disney Plus show of Phase 4 and the second ever on Disney Plus of Marvel, period. We have the Falcon and Winter Soldier. We have Sam Wilson struggling with identity and not really sure if he should become Captain America even though he's black in the US. We have Bucky Barnes, who is now struggling in a reality and trying to find himself in a post-in-game world and still struggling with the after effects of the Winter Soldier and everything that came with that. Now, overall, until the last episode, which this is what a lot of Disney Plus shows suffer from, you can watch this show and go, oh, this is great, and then get to the last episode and go, this kind of feels rushed and the villain doesn't feel perfectly executed. So, it's a great show. However, a lot of these shows with the overall villain and like reveal and build up, most often than not, these Disney Plus shows aren't films, and so they pretty much just develop the heroes and characters, and the villain and payoff and final battle of this whole show isn't the best or isn't the best final conclusion. The ultimate culmination of this whole show was Sam Wilson struggling with becoming Captain America and him giving it up, and then the U.S. government picking their own Captain America. And so that was the main core struggle. And so we saw that, and we saw the after effects. Ultimately, Agent Walker, John Walker, was getting his first name for a second. John Walker was Captain America, decapitated a person, and it was filmed. So he's not Captain America, and Sam Wilson ultimately took up the mantle. And so the show overall is great. The villain and the villain execution isn't the best at the end. It's a great build-up, but not the best ending. And people more often than not will remember the end than the middle or beginning. You will either remember the beginning or the end. If you remember the middle the best, it's a very different kind of thing. But most often than not, you'll remember the ending of a movie or a show more, as it'll have a bigger impact on you than the middle and beginning. And well, the ending in the villain perspective wasn't as good as some would hope. Alright, so now we go from Black Widow, Shang-Chi, down to Eternals. Why do I say that? Because this film should have been animated. That's a fact. This film should have been a TV show with about 10 hours worth of content because they tried to force in over 2,000 years of what they're calling history and lore. All these like 10 or so characters into a 2-hour film. Problem 1. Problem 2. The villain and execution of this whole thing was poorly done to the extreme. We have one villain where it's like the chimera-esque thing that they have to kind of try to stop. We also have the second thing where part of the Eternals turns on themselves because they don't agree with their leader on how they're executing certain things. Then he may or may not have died. The leader is dead about 5 minutes into the film, even though she's kind of alive for most of the film as they go back and forth between like the 12, the 13, the 14, the 15, the 16, and all those like different centuries and hundreds of years of history. They've been around since at least 2,000 years ago, maybe even longer. No explanation of why they're not in Endgame in any capacity, but should have been told better. It has been nearly 5 years since this film came out, and we have no update on it, even though a lot of people would love an animated version of a movie or a show, but Marvel doesn't really do much with animation, which is a very big bummer. The Black Knight, aka Kit Harington's character, has not been followed up on, just like Shang-Chi has yet to be followed up on. The only character of the first 3 films to have a proper follow-up has been Yelena Belova. And that's not even in her own project. She's appeared in a bunch. But why is Yelena Belova the only character of the first 3 of these films to have a follow-up in over 4 years since these 3 came out? I get Eternals wasn't that great of a film, and the fan base didn't like it as much, but you can still give it a shot as an animated show if done right. You can still do Shang-Chi even as an animated or just a live-action show. You could give that a shot. They're holding themselves, the MCU is holding themselves back because most of Phase 4 should have sequels by now, and none of them have sequels pretty much. Pretty much nothing from Phase 4 has a sequel. Nothing. The Eternals, no sequel. Shang-Chi, no sequel. Black Widow, nothing. Yet. I'll get on this later with other films. Yet other films are known to have sequels in production. We don't even know if some of these films are in production. We don't know if there's an Eternals 2 at this point. We don't know if there's a Shang-Chi 2. There is not a Black Widow 2 in production. Thankfully, there's no reason for a Black Widow 1 to begin with. But you start off with these 3 first films, and instead of doing how Phase 1 did it, by following up with them quickly, you don't follow up at all. So that's one big issue. You're 4.5 years since your first 3 films of Phase 4. There's no word on any sequels of these 3. Why am I not including the 4th? Well, we'll get to that in a second. Also, if you're liking this video and you've watched this far, please leave a like and subscribe to this channel and hit that notification bell. This video comes out Monday. Next Monday will be the TV shows. Tune in and watch it. Now we have all this talk about sequels and stuff for the first 3 films. Why am I not talking about the 4th? Well, the 4th film to come out in Phase 4 is the finale of the Spider-Man Home Trilogy. Why is it called Home Trilogy? Because it has Homecoming, Far From Home, and No Way Home. This is the critically acclaimed. It hit over $1 billion. Spider-Man No Way Home. You have Spider-Man as Tom Holland, Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield. You have Doc Ock from the Tobey film. You have Electro from the Tobey film, from the Andrew Garfield films. You have Electro from the You have Doc Ock from the Tobey. You have Electro from the Andrew. You have Sandman from the Tobey. What else? You have Green Goblin from the Tobey Maguire, pretty much right after Spider-Man 1. You also have we also have the Lizard from the Amazing Spider-Man 1. Let's see, that's 4 of the 5-ish villains we have. Aunt May dies. Tom Holland decides at the end of the film, I'm gonna erase everything, all the memory of me from everyone in my life ever. But Spider-Man is still known, and so Spider-Man is still like an Avenger because Peter Parker was deleted, but not Spider-Man. It's a little bit of a conundrum, but they're pretty much doing it right. So why am I not saying that this doesn't get a sequel? Because the sequel comes out in a few months, and everyone's hyped up for it. The only reason the sequel has taken so long is because A, Sony, B, Tom Holland has been doing a lot lately outside of doing Spider-Man, and it took a while to get the right story and the right people in production. But we've seen and heard about the updates and everything in between about this sequel for well over a year now. The other 3, nothing, no word. What makes Spider-Man No Way Home one of the greatest films the MCU ever made? It made over $1 billion. You brought in both of the previous two Spider-Man. You reset the entirety of Tom Holland's Spider-Man over into making his own suits and not being well known, making him exactly comic accurate with how Tobey did it, of how he has to take special tests in order to actually reestablish himself into getting into college and not going to that big of a university. And presumably he's going to be starting with the New York newspaper, just like Tobey did. He loses his best friend and his love interest in the same film, and his Aunt May. He has no family connections by the end of this film. He has no money or no tech connections by the end of this film because his Tony Stark tech is gone because Peter Parker is gone. Happy doesn't know him either. Tobey and Andrew go back to their universes. Tobey has a kid by now and is a well-established, basically legend as a superhero. Andrew kind of went dark for a time after he lost Gwen Stacy. Kind of would have loved that Amazing Spider-Man 3. MJ and Ned don't remember. So, that is why it's such a great film. Also, Charlie Cox appears, not as Daredevil, but as a lawyer, and he catches that brick while being blind, which is a phenomenal moment in and of itself. This whole film is filled with phenomenal moment after phenomenal moment. Green Goblin killing Aunt May. Top tier. Doc Ock. Moral reflection and moral fighting within himself, because this is basically Doc Ock around the end of Spider-Man 2. You have Green Goblin presumably around Spider-Man 1. You have Electro around Spider-Man 2. You have Sandman around Spider-Man 3. You have all these characters coming out from different universes at various different points, and then you have these other two Spider-Men coming at different points from these villains that come. These villains are coming from a very different time, from a time where they knew these Spider-Men, but these Spider-Men are now very much older. I could go on and on. This is one of my favorite films, and this is very easy to break down. But there are 5 villains in this film. I know 4 of them as a fact. I'm struggling with what the 5th one is, to be honest. But this movie is very memorable and one of the best films that the MCU has ever put out, let alone one of the best, if not the best film of phase of the entire multiverse saga. Alright, so now those are the 4 films that come out from July to December in 2021. The spacing wasn't all that right, but we had 4 good, okay, a good, okay, a great, and then a greatness. An absolute banger, top tier. Now, to begin, or well, not really to begin, but kind of to start off 2022 with films in the MCU, we have in May, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. It was absolute madness. It did include the multiverse. However, people set their expectations here when we should have set them maybe about halfway as far as we did. Very too high of expectations for a film that is about 5 or so years since the first film and is looking very different than how it should from the post-credit scene and how the first film ended. Mordo should have been the villain here, but he wasn't. It was a multiversal Scarlet Witch that was the villain here. America Chavez was a choice and a weird one to do in and of itself as the multiversal pathway for this. It was a very weird kind of thing that they did. There are various different ideas of how they could have changed that. Overall, this is a good film. What makes it not that great is the title is misleading. Scarlet Witch absolutely stomping the Illuminati in less than 5 minutes, which is right and justified. However, you're introducing a whole entire group of characters, and then they immediately get stomped. Overall, this is a good to great film. But the fan expectations were too high. And it wasn't even from the trailer, it was just off of the title and rumors, which is why now the fans don't really care as much, or a lot of fans don't care as much about the rumors, because the rumors set fans' expectations too high or too low from what the actual expectations should be. So, that is where we're at for this. So we have Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Alright, so now coming at the exact halfway point, since we have 10 in total, we have our 5th show. This one came out, I believe, at the end of 2021. This was Hawkeye. I would love to say that this is season 1, but so far it's only season 1. Well, I wish there was more of this. It was just good. It was just good. It was a street level MCU show that pretty much was basically a Daredevil show. Was basically looked and ran as if it was Daredevil or a Netflix Defender type of show, just with Hawkeye at the helm and nearly retired, with a Kate Bishop coming in and going, "I'm young, I'm strong-willed, I want to be independent, I don't want to shoot a bow and arrow and be just like you." Yelena Belova appears, Kingpin appears, we have Echo here, and a few other things. We have the debut of the Marksman, which has become a low-key great character. I didn't really find him to be all that interesting in Hawkeye, and then now he's very good in Daredevil Born Again. So, Hawkeye is just good. It's just a good show and a great continuation of this good run of Marvel Phase 4 shows. Right. So, as we get over the halfway point, I want to go ahead and say, hey, if you're watching this far and you're already 12 minutes in, maybe you're liking the video. So, why don't you just like the video, subscribe, hit that notification bell. We upload here at least 3 times a week: Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday. Sometimes Fridays, and every so often we'll upload a Tuesday video, which is a combined or compilation video, mostly to do with Marvel, but we'll have other types of compilation videos up in the near future. Wednesdays, we have TV shows in the broad sense and rankings and just overall deep dives into stuff like the Arrowverse and stuff like that. Fridays is narrowing it and going over specific TV shows in general and just going over a specific TV show. Saturdays is books and any type of book content I feel like putting out. So also, hey, comment below something you want me to upload in the near future and I'll get back to you. Comment below something you liked or didn't like about any of these Phase 4 shows. I'll put a comment below and we can start the chat right when this video comes out. But without any further ado, we're just over halfway through. And so we'll go with, we have the 6th show of this MCU Disney Plus shows era, and we have MoonKnight, the greatest 6 episodes Disney Plus, Marvel with Disney Plus has ever produced. Why do I say it's not the greatest show? Because it never properly finished. You left us with peak fiction, peak fantasy. It's as if they made Brandon Sanderson's Mistborn Book 1 and then just dipped. Great show, great run, just going banger after banger in each episode, leveling it up from the previous. The only bad part is it's been about 4 years to a T since this show came out, and we have no recognition of a season 2 of anything to the sort, which pisses me off and most of the fan base off. How do you put a certifiable banger of a show and you don't fulfill it later? By now, we should have had a season 2, if not even a 3 by now, because it would have made them money! Literally! Why do you not produce something that's gonna make you money? I don't know, but it's great, it's phenomenal, it continues the great run of, if you're watching Phase 4, the movies are alright, but the shows are gonna hit most of the time, right? Well, they are! Most of the time these shows hit after hit after hit. Now we have the final film of Phase 4, over what felt like a long 2 years in 7 films in a 2-year span, but not great overall pacing, because we never had a film in the first, 4 months of either year. From January to April, no film. I don't like that. We need to have better spacing. And overall, why? Because the first film of each of them came out in May. Then Black Widow and Thor came out in July. We have a September release, which is still not that great, but it is fine. Then we have a November release, which then we have a November and December. All 4 films of 2021 came out from July to December. That is 6 months, 4 films in 6 months, and 2 films in back-to-back months. Not good, not a great start. Then we have 2022, where it goes from May until November, right? Yeah, November. Which July to November is a much better spacing overall. Why am I mentioning this? Because this is an actual factor that has affected the MCU. We went 4 films, then we went 3 films without any actual explanation from the MCU heads about why we're going from 4 down to 3 in such little time. You established more films, but now you're going back and scaling back without really anyone telling us why. And now, so we have Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. This is a great film in and of itself. However, because of the choices that we made to make this film a full-blown Chadwick Boseman memorial celebration, we are now screwing ourselves over in the near future. Because A, Black Panther 3 has been announced, but no confirmed timetable for it. It came out just over 4 years ago in November of 2022. Great film. Overall, wonderful. Chadwick Boseman funeral, everything in between. However, Shuri as the Queen of Wakanda should not last long. Why? It's not that she's not a great character. She's not a leader. And we need a Black Panther. Which is why M'Baku, for the 3rd Black Panther movie, should be the main villain and should take over the throne and everything in between. Will also have to be very big shenanigans happening for Black Panther 3, because now we have, instead of T'Challa, we have to have T'Challa's son basically as nearly a teenager and become king all in one film because of the bad setup we have. A great memorial and a great celebration for the life of Chadwick Boseman. However, for the future of this franchise, we're not setting it up great at all. Not at all. The film as a whole, phenomenal. Top tier. Namor, wonderful villain, wonderful story, kind of like an anti-hero, but in this film he was basically a villain. Killing off the Queen, basically, great. More story and more development for Okoye and the other soldiers, great. Then we got an announcement for a project, a TV show adaptation for this. Okay, it's a little bit weird, but okay, we got it. And so this is a great film, but because of the way this film has done, in hindsight and retrospect, it's not the best decision that they could have made to do for this film and for the future of the MCU, for continuity, for lore, and for history. Because also Shuri shouldn't lead for long, so we're gonna have to wait and see what Black Panther 3 is like. However, Black Panther 3 will not come out until at least 2028, which proves the issues that the MCU is having. Spider-Man is the only one that's getting a sequel of these. Thor will be getting a sequel, likely after Secret Wars, or right before Secret Wars. We don't really know yet. Black Panther, no sequel is known for a while. Eternals, no project of a sequel, and Shang-Chi, no project of sequel either. Doctor Strange should still get a 3rd movie. Either way, we have many issues with Phase 4. We have some TV shows that are kind of molding in a trilogy of sorts with WandaVision, Agatha, and Vision as like a trilogy of shows completing a full story. That is all right. Vision has yet to come out. And Agatha took a lot longer than it should have to come out. Why am I bringing all this up? Because the MCU is not doing fast enough or quick enough production or writing or giving us proper updates on certain sequels or projects. So, MCU Phase 4 had 2 great films. The rest were good, okay, or bad. You can decide on that, pretty much. Shang-Chi was good. Doctor Strange was eh. Eternals, eh. Love and Thunder, eh. Black Widow, exists. That's the issues with this phase of films, and also the quality over quality debate. All right, so yeah, so we've had a great we had a great run in Phase Four. Had the worst show was the final actual TV show of Phase Four. Which one is that? She-Hulk Attorney at Law. The one that leaned too hard, too freaking hard into the hardcore feminist side. And you have the moniker of attorney at law when maybe 2% of the show is actual attorney work. Maybe. It's like a lot, it's like shot for shot from the comic. But here's the bad parts. No true villain throughout the entire season. Daredevil pops in randomly. Okay. And she's not really even much of a hero. She's just arrogant the entire time. And that's because unlike Hulk, she is She-Hulk because she just becomes Hulk 24/7. And so she's just an arrogant woman as a lawyer the entire time. And it's as if any time a male character comes along that's not someone like Bruce Banner or Matt Murdock because she has a thing for him or something, they're just pricks. They're all douchebags and all of them are just terrible. If they're not one of the like two people that she actually likes as guys, they suck. They automatically suck. And then she goes and breaks the fourth wall and talks to a robot called Kevin or like Feige or whatever. And that was somewhat funny. But overall, this is 9 episodes that I watched intently to see when it would get good. Because no, it wasn't. I was like, okay, this is very depressing, but maybe it'll get better. Maybe it'll get better after episode after episode after episode. And what do you know? It sucked, and it did not get better. And Matt Murdock, for about the episode or two he was in, was maybe the only saving grace for that time. And like I said, you have Titania in there, who is her actual villain. Maybe 1, maybe 2 episodes in the whole show. You have a Marvel cinematic show that does not have a definitive villain throughout the entirety of it. And that was its biggest downfall. You don't have a villain or a proxy to go against her at all. It's just her living life, and that's like, all the other shows have villains. What good idea was it? Whose good idea was it to not have a definitive villain in the show? I don't know, but yeah, that's She-Hulk. Okay, so now we have, after we've had WandaVision, banger, we had a good show in Falcon Winter Soldier, we had a great show in Loki, we had a good show in What If, Season 1, we have a good show in Hawkeye, we have a great MoonKnight show. Okay, let's just follow it up with Miss Marvel, which was good! Again, it wasn't the best, it wasn't the worst, it was okay, but again, we just had another good show. How could you not be hyped for Marvel? Oh, right, the movies don't hit as hard as the shows do right now. We have 7 shows, and we're less than 2 full years in, which is a lot of content, but nearly every show is hit. So we have Miss Marvel, Kamala Khan. It's just going off. It's just insane. It's a great show. It's not a top tier, not all this CGI stuff. Yes, parts of it is underwhelming, but overall, it's a niche character on a TV screen, and it's a pretty good show. She's only like 15. It's basically like, what if they made the first ever Spider-Man movie into a TV show kind of thing. She's like 15, and she's living out her dream. It's a good show, and it continues the great run that Phase 4 was on with their TV shows. Alright, so now we have another weird one in doing this whole film breakdowns and my thoughts on it. We have Thor, Love and Thunder, the 4th Thor franchise movie. It was about 4-5 years after Thor Ragnarok, so a good space in between. Sequels. Good villain pick. Bad execution, just like Dark World. Good general scheme, script, and like everything between. Good general idea for the movie. Too goofy. Not serious enough for gore kidnapping children, but still being an overall goofy film. Jane Foster was about the best part of this movie and how well executed that comic adaptation was. Thor not wanting to lead, still being kind of fat, not really wanting to take responsibility, and the Guardians kind of being in the film all were major factors of hampering this movie as a whole. Why do I say that? Guardians in the film because Thor kind of went with them at the end of Endgame, which doesn't make too much sense. You have Jane Foster in the film and she returns, which is great. It's wonderful. Gore's in the film, but he's not well executed, and now his daughter is with Thor. It's been out for almost 4 years, so spoilers. Sorry. So overall, I'm not the biggest fan of this movie. It is another big thing of too much hype and too high of expectations of a movie going in. And so it was a good or okay film, kind of the standard that Phase 4 is setting as a whole. Is it the best film in the MCU history? No. Is it the worst? No. It's not good or great, it's just okay. And this film overall could have been a whole lot better, especially with the introduction of Zeus and later Hercules in the post-credit scene. Which, reminder, this film has been out for nearly 4 years, and we have no confirmation for a sequel. Spider-Man No Way Home is one of 7 films, and the only film that we know pretty much to have a sequel in production, period. Period. That is a problem. Now let's move on. Alright, so the final 2 parts of this are Werewolf by Night and another TV special. These came out in Halloween and Christmas seasons, respectively. So we have Werewolf by Night, which came out first in only black and white, and that's the only time I've seen it. Not because it's not good, just because I watch a lot of TV and stuff. And there's since also been in color. I would say, since this is just a TV special, I can't really rank it over the whole shows, but easily this is basically the best one shot of a TV that I've ever seen. It's just great. It just moved the pace along greatly, and it told a wonderful and pretty much complete and well thought out story for about the 45 minutes that it was on the screen. I mean, just another good or okay show, or TV special, or whatever you want to call it. Which is why, and the holiday special was also good, which is why Punisher is being hyped up right now. So, the final TV show / TV special, the last 2 of these have been TV specials. The last TV special is Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special, featuring pretty much solely Mantis and Drax. Just having a Christmas season fest to give one of Peter Quill's old celebrities or childhood idols or whatever to come over and meet him for Christmas. Good, funny, laughable. It was fun. Just like 30 minutes of chill fun and chaotic attitude from the Guardians of the Galaxy. What more do you expect? Alright, hope you all enjoyed this wonderful long video. And hope you all have a wonderful week. I'll see you all tomorrow. Have a good one. Goodbye.